How's it going, people? Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to the bigger picture. I've got Mo back again. First time for a couple of weeks. How's it going, Mo?
Oh, listen, man, a lot better than last time.
You try to smile at least. We're both smiling, obviously.
Yeah, man.
Back of 2 wins. It just depends on how much longer this smile is going to last. But we will get into all of that, people. We will get into all of that. And obviously, we've been keeping you waiting. My bad on that. It's my fault. Hands up. I didn't even realize the time. But we are here now, people. So get your questions and thoughts in. Hopefully, at some point during the video, we will get a chance to go through some of these questions and some of these thoughts that you lot provide. But at the same time, I do want to keep conversation flowing with Mo. So I'm going to make sure that is the priority. But Mo, like we just said, 2 wins. Where do we start? Like, what was your thoughts on the Chelsea one first?
Chelsea one, I thought was actually a very good performance, but, I didn't, sometimes Turkish, you get such a response after you do interviews, right? That I thought, I was very happy and I wanted to put that foot forward. I think in hindsight, I look back and I thought to myself, just one observation that I had is that when we beat Chelsea, if you think back to some of our defeats, and I can't remember which one it was, but Mikel Arteta said that we dominated the game. He said basically we deserved to win and almost downplayed the result and said we deserved to win because we dominated the game, because we had more crosses and more possession. And if you look at the stats in the Arsenal-Chelsea game, it's just funny how fans work, even how managers work. Chelsea had significantly more crosses and they had more possession as well. Not a single Arsenal voice talked about Chelsea domination. Nope. And I just find that quite funny. And it just goes to show that we're consistent here, because when Arsenal lost, whichever game it was that Arteta said that, as I say, I can't remember, we didn't claim that, Arsenal had played well. We criticised the performance, and the equal and opposite came true. Even in spite of Chelsea dominating based on possession and crosses, we didn't take that to mean a good performance by Chelsea and a bad performance by Arsenal. We gave Arsenal the credit because we can see with our naked eye what really matters. And that's what really frustrated me in kind of Arteta's post-loss conferences. So it's funny, like even Arteta kind of wants it both ways. He didn't say, I'm worried today after the Chelsea game, But it was a really good performance and the boys clearly were up for it. And for me, it was a case of, I've said in the past as well, easy to motivate yourself for the big games where, the world's media is watching and stuff. But then when it comes to, like the last game we played, Brighton away or West Brom away, the next one we're going to play, then maybe it's a bit harder. It was just important that the Chelsea game, we consolidate that with a win against Brighton. And we did that, so I'm very happy.
100%. And it was a very different game as well. And I think that Brighton game is the type of game we need to expect more of moving forward. I said it after West Ham and Sheffield United. I said that these are the games we're going to have to get used to. It's not necessarily the Fulham one, because the Fulham one, it didn't tell the whole tale. But these sort of performances against these sort of teams that set up in that sort of way, I believe that's what we have to get used to this season. And it is all about the fine margins. Arteta mentions it all the time, but he's actually right. And over the last couple of games, the fine margins, like the penalty, the free kick, Saka's cross that ends up in off the post, and even against Brighton, keeping a clean sheet in the first half. Not that we was under immense pressure, but Brighton, was on top of us in the first half. We've come through both 6 points. We've got West Brom. Like you said, you need to continue building on it.
But I just want to pick up on one thing you just said. You said Saka's cross, so you're not buying it.
I'm not buying that. No, there's no chance. What are you saying? Do you think it was a?
I don't think he meant it. It's a weird one. Like, I think we need the right angle to see where he looks. I haven't seen behind Saka to see where he's actually looking. It doesn't look to me like he's looking at that far post. And I just feel like he claims that Mendy was off his line. When you actually look at Mendy, he's 3 yards off his line. I don't know. I don't think he meant it at all. And I think it's funny as well because I thought to myself, Saka's coming out and saying it, so maybe I'll believe him. But then when you come and see the other professionals coming out and stuff, no one believes him. I think it's quite funny, to be honest with you. But listen, man, I would probably do the same if I was Saka.
Of course.
Exactly. Either you admit to a mishit cross or you try and take credit for an amazing goal. I'll do the latter.
I think his initial reaction said it all. But like you said, you've got to claim it. Week
Yeah,
off,
man.
lob over the keeper and off the far post. You know, it's a fairy tale. And obviously, what it is, it was a London derby, and it was Chelsea. You know, so as much as in isolation that 3 points didn't really mean much,
Yeah.
it meant an awful lot after what we've been through the last couple of months too, and not even seeing 3 points for so long. You know, what is that? 2 wins since the 1st of November. Well, 3 wins since the 1st of November. Now 2 of them coming in the last 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap up the year now with West Brom, and we might as well just touch on that one quickly before I do move on. Are you confident moving into West Brom? Obviously, Big Sam over there. They got a draw against Liverpool, but then they got pummeled against Leeds. So
but you see, like the thing is, when you obviously set up a plan, and no matter how good the plan, certain things can happen that can throw it out. And one of the most frustrating things that can throw your plan out the window is an own goal, like the one they conceded, the first goal. It's not that this was the 4th or 5th goal that they conceded against Leeds. It was the very first goal. As soon as that happens, plan goes out the window. And I just feel like in a Sam Allardyce team, when he's got like a 6-4 arrangement, they probably have like a well-drilled system where they say, okay, look, if we do go a goal down, then we have to be slightly more adventurous. Now, to the normal football fan, Sam Allardyce's version of slightly more adventurous is a 6-3-1. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus the 6-4. But that does ruin their shape defensively, and they just got completely battered. But Leeds actually scored very, very good goals as well. So I'd almost like to see in all those chances what the expected goals was of the finishes, because their finishing was amazing. Whilst when it came to Liverpool, West Brom, they defended really, really well. So I think they'll be back on form for Arsenal, and provided they're not going to gift us a easy lead, an own goal, a penalty, then I do think we'll have a real tough time breaking them down.
Yeah, at the best, I agree. Like I said, we're going to get used to these games, and this is another one of those games. They're going to bring out the low blocks, the 6-4-0, you know, the big Sam special, and that doesn't bode well for us, because as much as, you know, the attack has been refreshed, and that's why in the title I have the question, is the future bright? You know, because so far we've had this is the 4th one, but over the first 3 shows we've done, Mo, the main topic of discussion has been losses, but off the back of the losses, the board, the ownership, the direction. And when you look at the future in that sense, that there's nothing bright about it. But if you're looking at Emile Smith-Rowe, Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli, William Saliba around the corner, potentially Matteo Guendouzi, maybe he still has a future at the club. Is the future bright, or do we need to get our act together to make sure it is bright? You know, because it is a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I think your point will always remain, and we've kind of spoken about the whole owner kind of factor. The future can be bright, but it will never be because of the owners. It will always be in spite of the owners.
Yeah. That's true. It's in spite of the owners. Do you see us reaching a level with these young players over the next 18 months? Because essentially the transfer market, January, we're not going to improve much. I don't know how you feel about January, but we've introduced Emile Smith-Rowe now. And actually, you've been a big fan of Emile Smith-Rowe for longer than I have. You followed him for longer than I have. And Unai Emery, was it Unai Emery that gave him a shot? Or was it?
Yeah, I think that was in the tours, the pre-season tours. But yeah, Emile Smith-Rowe has been on my radar for a long time, actually. And I do try and follow the youth as much as I can. Obviously, you can never follow them to the same extent, really, as the first team, unless you've got, like, you know, literally nothing else that you're doing. But there's been a few talents, but he's one that I've been really excited about, because he's just got a very, very natural technique that I feel like it's got a notable difference. You know, some of the goals that he scored at under 23 level are ridiculous. And even the pre-season friendly against Atletico Madrid in the International Champions Cup, the goal he scored in that game as well, I just thought that embodied him, because what I really like about him, he does not get on the pitch and then just take part. He tries to make a difference. And that's one thing I've always noticed about his game, and I really like about his game. And I'm really, really happy, you know, that it's coming good for him, because I've been calling out for him for a long time. If we're not going to play Mesut Ozil, I've said so many times, at least play Emile Smith-Rowe. And, you know, I feel like I don't want to carry on digging Willian out, but he set the bar so low for what's an acceptable return to continue getting into the starting lineup that I felt that, well, a youngster can't do any worse. So you might as well give him a go.
Yeah, you're actually right. It's true. It's true. And talking of January, do you see us doing business? Are you confident about the words so far from the higher ups?
Well, do you know what? I think it's an interesting one, this transfer window with coronavirus going on and everything like that, and also potentially Mikel Arteta not being 100% secure, you know what I mean, in his role. So I was saying in my last interview that if I was Stan or if I was the board, I would be looking to do loan deals. And because I might not be fully confident in terms of backing Arteta, spending like 40, 50 million pounds on a man that the next manager might not want, but I would obviously know that, look, we do need to do something. So a loan deal, I feel like, you know, you're not committing to that outlay, and also you're allowing Arteta to get people in, but that another manager can say, actually, no, I don't want that. Or if you get the option, the manager can say, yes, I do want that. So I think that's probably the best way to go.
Don't you think that's giving them more chances? Or because I see it as they put Edu in that position, they've got rid of Raul and they made Arteta manager. So it's hard for me to now say 6 months later, because of results and the way it's gone, that they should be weary of backing Arteta. If they believe in him and they think that that was the right decision, I think that they need to back him now. They needed to back him in the summer. They didn't really.
But I guess maybe it's just a reflection of the fact that I'm not convinced. You know, I'm really far from convinced. And unfortunately, Arsenal don't have the luxury of buying a player and then it not working out and then we get rid of him or whatever, or you waste away. Like, you know, Man City, they spend so much and if it doesn't work, that's fine. Arsenal don't really have that luxury. So I don't know, maybe you're right. Maybe a lot of people would say, listen, no, you can't view it like that. You have to back him. You have to back him wholeheartedly or get rid. But I feel like a loan deal with an option to buy, for me, is probably like the best balanced approach. But, you know, I'm not going to complain, obviously, if they do back him. And if Arteta wants someone in and they do go and get him, I'll be happy to see that. But I think they're also, you know, like, the players that I want to see, I said this to Robbie in my last interview, central attacking midfielder. I don't think we can rely on Emile Smith-Rowe to do it all himself. No. If we're not going to bring Ozil back, then we should be buying another cam, and those two can split that role for the rest of the season, the cup games, the Europa League games, the Premier League games. And also we need a backup goalkeeper, because I don't feel like Runarsson is anywhere near ready from what we've seen.
I don't. Someone said backup goalkeeper to me earlier. Actually, I forgot who it was, but I don't feel like it's a priority yet, Mo. I feel like we need two midfielders definitely above a backup goalkeeper, and because we talk about Emile Smith-Rowe can't do it all on his own, but Partey can't do it all on his own behind him. So we need a partner for him, depth for him, and maybe more in defense too, in terms of another centre back and another right back, before I even think about backup keeper. Do you think it's that urgent now?
Well, the way I see it is, look, you know, in the middle, if, for example, Partey is injured now, and, you know, no matter what you think of them, right, Xhaka, Elneny, Willock, Ceballos, there's 4 names, and on their day, they can do a job, you know. Even centre-back, we've got Mari, Holding, Mustafi, Socrates, Luiz, you know, so we've got a few people there. I'm not saying, and Gabriel, obviously, we've got a few people there, some a lot better than others, but on their day, I do think even someone like Mustafi, even David Luiz, on their day can go and do a job. But I feel like we're one injury away from really our season potentially unraveling with Leno if he gets injured, because I just don't see Runarsson as that person that on his day can do a job. And I just think the jitters will really start if we have him in goal for 10 games. So that's my thinking anyway. But, you know, it's all about hindsight, right? Because that's my thinking. But at the end of the season, we could turn around and say, well, Leno didn't get injured, so we would have been better off doing what you're saying.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And we might have done another wasted transfer where it looks like it's a silly piece of business. And that's my problem with the loan thing. I like, it makes sense what you're saying, you know, and it comes from the right place. But because they've told us the last 2 Januaries that all we can do is loan, I can't make that excuse for them for this one. You know, they've told us that twice before, and we've got a super chat here that's along the same lines, what's worrying is how many great young talent not getting chances that are taken by average youth players like Willock or Nketiah. Can we see Balogun, please? And obviously, Balogun's a big topic right now, Mo. What do you know about him first and foremost? Because I know a lot of people are basing their judgment over the last few appearances we've seen of him. But
yeah,
do you know much more about him?
Well, what I know about Balogun is that, if I'm not wrong, and this is purely from what I've seen, I have not looked at the statistics, so someone please tell me if I'm wrong, but from like my own kind of like monitoring of under 23 football, I am quite confident that Nketiah would have more goals than Balogun. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think Nketiah is probably more prolific at under 23 level. You've seen how good Nketiah has been at England youth as well, and on that basis, Nketiah to me was a more exciting prospect because of his natural like predator instinct to just get goals. But in terms of maybe who the better footballer is all round, like let's say for example, they're the strikers, Nketiah and Balogun playing next to each other, and one of them gets sent off. Oh, sorry, one player of ours gets sent off, and you have to sacrifice the striker. I would say Nketiah has to come off because Balogun's a better footballer. If he needs to fill in that right wing or whatever, he's got more of a. I don't want to say Nketiah doesn't have a football brain as such, but I think Balogun is a more intelligent, maybe, and complete footballer. So on that basis, that's what I love about Balogun. But Nketiah, I would not write him off, and I do think Nketiah will go on and have a good career, whether it's at Arsenal or somewhere else. I really do think the boy's got a lot of talent. But it's we've even seen Aubameyang struggling in this team this season. So on what basis would Nketiah go and do really well? So I've got a bit of sympathy for Nketiah, and I don't think he's had as much of a chance as people make out that he has. He hasn't covered himself in glory this season, but as I say, nor has Aubameyang.
Nah, nor has a lot of players, Mo, to say the least. But do you think this is a grave mistake, or do you think it's just another one along the same lines of what we've seen before, that it's a risk, and we don't know how we've got right here with the Balogun situation?
Well, do you know what? It will be a big error to let him go, because I do honestly think there's a really, really good player in there in Balogun. But, apparently the rumours are that he wants 100 grand a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to apply that to Balogun as fact. We don't know that as fact. It's just rumours that I've heard. If that is the case, a massive if, what would you do? Do you think that's fair of a request? Would you give him that? Do you think that's okay? Or would you say, look, no, you're taking the mick here?
Yeah, I wouldn't take that. I don't know enough about him to even make a judgment, but based off what I do know and the current wage structure at the club now, there's no chance I'm doing that. No chance.
Tell me this then. Let's say, for example, inside the club, they rate his potential. Let's say Gabriel Jesus, right? Let's look at a striker like him.
Yeah.
If Balogun can get to Gabriel's level, would you say at this stage, knowing that that's his potential, it's worth giving him 100k a week now just to hold on to him because you'll see the benefit in future?
No, definitely not, because then to keep him further along the line, you're going to have to improve on that wage. And to be honest, like, he ain't going to be worth much more than that wage anyway. So you're setting the bar very high, very early. And we can't afford to do that. If you look at Liverpool's wage structure, like since Klopp's come in and the way they've balanced it out, it's a very, from top to bottom, it makes sense, but also it's very, rigid. It's tight in there. There's not one player on 350 and two players. Just it's all in and around the same amount, with the top earners being Salah, Mane, Van Dijk. We need to get to that level, and giving a youngster like Balogun 100k works completely. Like, look at Chelsea with Hudson-Odoi. They shot themselves in the foot giving him 100k, 130k. That's quite a lot. For me, Rashford at United, 220k now. The way I see it is, if Rashford's on 220k, then the next contract for him, because he's still young, so he should still be developing. The next contract for him will be the star contract. That means a 300k contract. But will he ever be a 300k player? He will not be a 300k player. I can safely say that now. Balogun, massive risk, but we're not a club that can take that risk, Mo.
it's interesting for me. Like when I was thinking about it, and the reason I asked you that question about Gabriel Jesus, for example, or we could even say put Lacazette. You know, if Balogun becomes as good as Lacazette is now, would you give him 100k today? Clearly, and it's all about that upper potential, and that's why I'm phrasing the question like that. Because if someone said Balogun will get to Lewandowski level, you'd pay him whatever you need to keep him. Yeah. So it's all about where you believe that upper limit is. And I have to say, I'm really torn. I'm really, really torn on what I would do in this situation. I have to admit, I probably would keep him. The way I see it is that, look, you know, if we do give him 100 grand a week, let's say, for example, on a 3-year deal with an option to extend for another year or another, I don't know if you can even do another 2 years or something like that, then I might say, look, it's worth at a cost of 5 million a year keeping him. And if he's hitting that level, then fine. If not, then we'll cut our losses. I just feel as though there really is potentially a player in there. So I think it could be another Gnabry situation where we're looking at it thinking, damn, we let that one go. I don't know if there's anyone in the comments about Balogun and what they think. You know, would they give him the 100k today just to see if you can unlock that full potential?
To be honest, what I've been seeing is a lot of shock reactions at 100k. A lot of people are saying there's no way, you know, they'd pay that or he can ask for that because it just doesn't make sense. And I'm surprised, Mo, you'd say, yeah, I do understand though. And if I'm looking at it in a way where, okay, this club say to themselves, let's give Balogun 100k, let's sell Lacazette in January or in the summer, recoup some of that money. Balogun becomes the backup to Aubameyang. He rotates with Oba, and then cool. I'll understand it. But on the flip side, Mo, and this is where the Mesut Ozil situation and myself comes into play. Now, if Balogun asks for 100k and he gets 100k, I'm not seeing his age anymore, Mo. I need to see that on the pitch, because on the pitch, wages make the player in a sense for me. Because if you're a top earner, then I expect top performances. And if you're a top earning youngster, then I'm going to compare you to the best youngsters across the world. And that's when the going gets tough. Is that fair, Mo? Because that's how my... Yeah.
I guess, yeah. You know, ultimately, if I was paying the wages, I'd be saying that £100,000 a week is a first team salary. You know, that's a first team wage. So you need to be a first team player. Obviously, Balogun's not going to say no to that, though, is he? And that's the thing with contracts. He'll say, yes, I want that responsibility. Any young, ambitious footballer would. Whether he can live up to it is another thing. But when you come up with these contracts, they're not linked to performance. Maybe football's a bit flawed like that. But, you know, ultimately, it's the same for you and I in our day jobs, right? If, you know, we get our salary regardless, whether we do well at work or not. Eventually, they'll find a way to get you out of the business if you're not doing enough. But until they do that, you're going to be earning that money irrespective. So, you know, you can't always put a condition on it. I do think, though, when I first saw that rumor about the 100k, I was surprised. And I thought that's asking a lot. So let's say, for example, it was 50k. I think that makes it a lot easier, and I would do that to keep him in the club. But it really all depends on that. The other thing is, though, you have to look at who wants him. When Chelsea let Nketiah go, Arsenal took him. Yeah, so I don't know if people know about Nketiah's background, but he's a Chelsea youth player. Now, the rumour is that Liverpool want Balogun if we let him go, or they're trying to basically turn his head. So, you know, again, it's not that he's just going into the wilderness. This is another top club that's after him. And that, again, would make me think, you know, it's probably a sign that there's really something about him. And you tell me, Turkish, are we going to be forgiving as fans? If Arsenal say to him, no, we're not going to give you 100k, we're going to let you go. If he's scoring 30 goals in the league in 5 years, are we going to be forgiving, or are we going to say that was another one?
No, we're not going to be forgiving. It's going to be another one. You know, it's going to be another one where we look back on and say we should have done it. Amadou says, on the flip side, why then would Saka and Martinelli not ask for 100k? It's a risk that could pay off, but I don't think it would be a smart risk. And that's the flip side of it, because other players would see it, and other players, you know, would set that as the benchmark. And that's what I really, you know, I look at Liverpool and I admire what they've done there, because they've got so many quality, world-class players, but they're all on a wage budget. They're all in that wage structure, and there's no one, you know, head over heels, and there's no one that... It's all balanced. It's all down to earth. It's humble when you look at the wage structure in comparison to ours. When you look at our wage structure on paper, you can see egos in there. You can see inflation in there. When you look at Liverpool's on paper, it's what every club should really aspire to be like, because they've managed to fix it over a long time, and we're going to have to do the same thing because it's part of the problem. But talking about the youngsters that are sticking around for now, Saka, Martinelli.
That's a good point. This person just said, why didn't Saka and Martinelli ask for that? But you see, that's the thing. It's the same old issue again with Arsenal letting a player run down his contract. As soon as you're in that position, then you know your agent will be saying to you, this club will offer you this much, blah, 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 and you get that comparison. So if Balogun is asking for more than maybe other youngsters, that could well be because he has been told that another club wants you at this wage. So then that's it. The benchmark is set. When it came to Saka, I think we actually dealt with that quite well. We tied him down to a long-term deal before these murmurings of other clubs came up. With Martinelli, we were the club. You know, let's not forget that we signed him, right? So we might have been that club causing hassle. You know, the fans of his previous club might have been saying, why is he asking for so much? And that club might have said no to him, and we've given him the money. So, you know, it's not that we're victims all the time. Sometimes we might be the perpetrators of it, you know, and you win some, you lose some. But this Balogun one is a headache. I'm desperate for him to sign.
Yeah, well, you know more about him than I do, so I'll take your word for it, Mo. To be honest, Liverpool definitely won't give him 100k, but I do know that when players reach the last 6 months, they got a bit more weight, they got a bit more power, and it might be a case of I don't think he'd be asking us for 100k. I think that's a bit steep, but he'd probably ask us for more than he would get at Liverpool, because it would take more for us to keep him than Liverpool, because Liverpool right now, you know, it's a better place to be than Arsenal, let's be honest. So you know, I'd understand why there's a differential in the money asked. And with Saka and Martinelli, actually with Martinelli, Mo, yeah, there's a point I've made. To be honest, I didn't do an interview yesterday, but
why not?
I got back late. I was doing shopping for the family and I got back late, so I didn't get an interview done. But with Martinelli, I look at him as someone in a few years we're going to need to sell to reinvest and improve this side.
Don't say that.
Because Mo, I look at it like, listen, if we're going to continue this model of not spending as much as maybe other clubs or spending within our means, and when you look at us making a loss now, and you look at how Liverpool did it, because Liverpool did it in the same way this Kroenke wants to do it, and that model. Obviously, they brought in a manager too, but they had big sales in between. One of those big sales landed to Brendan Rodgers with Luis Suarez. He spunked them. It didn't work out. The other one landed to Klopp, and he managed to listen. No Liverpool fan wanted Suarez or Coutinho to leave. You know, they would have been dead against it. Yeah. But in hindsight, you know, you look at it now and you think, well, that changed Liverpool for the better.
Yeah.
With us, we have no assets, you know. So our assets are being made now. Saka, Martinelli, maybe Guendouzi, Emil Smith-Rowe. These are the assets to be. We have no real assets aside from that. Our experienced players, none of them are assets. So don't you think we might need to sell one of them in a few years for that 100 mil plus and reinvest, or is it too soon to even be talking about it?
Yeah, I think it is. You know, I mean, it's probably too soon and also too
depressing.
Yeah, exactly. Too depressing to even think that. I don't want to be a selling club. And, you know, someone like Martinelli, when I look at youngsters in world football who I think that, yeah, you are going to be the next poster boys or whatever, for me, Martinelli is up there. I really, really believe he's up there. He just looks like, you know, geared to be a top player. So I don't want to sell him. I really don't want to sell him. It's also important, you know, money's one thing as well, but it's also important for the profile of the club. How many players, don't you feel like every single player, every single good player out there, when you catch little interviews and this and that or whatever, look at Hakeem Ziyech, look at Jack Grealish, no matter who the hell it is, when you listen to what players say, they always say like, oh yeah, I really liked Arsenal in England. I always liked watching Arsenal, blah, 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 all of this. Everyone's got a soft spot for Arsenal. The reason is Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, Robert Perez, Freddie Ljungberg, Patrick Vieira, is these players. And I feel like, you know, for your profile to keep you as a big club, you need big players. And sometimes that can be worth more than just the money. So I wouldn't want to entertain the idea of selling Martinelli. I really wouldn't. I rate him too highly.
Yeah, no, to be honest, I wouldn't want to entertain it either. It's just something I see coming because I don't trust this club and board to change things around. And in 3-4 years, Mo, it might not be a case of should we sell him. He might want to be sold because we haven't done. He's 19. He'll be 23, 24 by that time. And, you know, the inevitable happens. With Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe, they're Arsenal through and through. They might stick it out a bit longer, even though we've seen, you know, players that were Arsenal through and through go on and leave and turn their back on us. So that's not
the big 5K a week.
Yeah, you know, the big one stands out. But I just think, you know, the question's got to be posed because that gives people the foresight, in my opinion, to understand why I bang on about the board and the ownership now. Because if we want to enjoy Martinelli for 8 more years, if we want to enjoy Saka for his career, if we want to enjoy the development of Emile Smith-Rowe, Reece Nelson, William Saliba, then we need to act properly in the transfer market now, both ins and outs. That's why I try and bring that into it, because as depressing as it sounds, it could be a reality, you know. And as Arsenal fans, I think we can't put our head in the sand with reality no more, Mo.
Yeah, no, listen, I do agree with you. And also, you know, I do hear your point, and it's a good example with Liverpool, because what they've done, they sold a superstar in Coutinho, and I'm saying, oh, you want those big profile players, but they've created more superstars as a result. You know, Van Dijk, Alisson, Salah, Mane, you know, they've got so many superstars now that without Suarez and Coutinho being sold, they wouldn't have these 4 potentially. So I do hear what you're saying, but it's very risky when you're letting big players go. But I do hear your point that if we're, you know, trying to scrape Europa League spots through 6th place or winning FA Cups, and that's all that Martinelli's seen of Arsenal in his next 4 years, why would he want to stay? So, yeah, it's important that we, you know, reach beyond that.
Yeah, we got a super chat question here for you, Mo, from Gio. Why did Arsenal let Benfica go and not re-signing? He has been a revelation at my club, Milan, and now his value is 50 million, and City, Real, Chelsea want him. Mo, that just sounds like another one for me, Mo. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, do you know what? That's the one that's not even like on my radar. There's so many to keep track of. Like even, you know, I bumped into Sven Mislintat on one occasion, and I spoke to him about, you know, the youth players at the club, and I said, like, you know, obviously I think they called him Diamond Eye, didn't they? So I said to him, like, you know, who is it that you're excited about? And he said Mavropanos. And Mavropanos. What is it? Mavropanos? Mavropanos.
Yeah, Mavropanos.
Yeah. Dino, let's go Dinos.
Dino. Yeah, that's it. Even Dino, that'll do.
Yeah, man. There you go. And he spoke about him and was really excited about him. And now obviously, like, where's he? That's it. You know, so there's so many of these stories. But you look at Milan and they're flying this year. That's Ivan Gazidis as well, who's absolutely smashing it for them, doing very well over there. So yeah, maybe he will be another one. And that's why I'm really nervous. It really hurts me when I see our youth disappear and go and excel elsewhere. And that's why I'm even considering the 100K a week for Balogun, you know. But also for me as well, there's truly nothing that gives me more happiness than seeing a youngster make it, go through that under 23 level, go into the first team and hold it down. Because anyone can go and buy the superstars. And obviously I love signing the big name players as well. But it gives me look, we've signed Thomas Partey and now we're seeing Emile Smith-Rowe come in. They'll be playing potentially in the same midfield, but I'll get a lot more satisfaction out of seeing Emile Smith-Rowe than I will seeing Thomas Partey. And I don't know why that is, man. It just means more to me. It's something I really like seeing. So, yeah, man, that's it. What can I say?
It's a natural feeling. What can you do, Mo? What can you do? And I'm going to move it on now. We're half an hour in, people. There's over 1,100, over 1,100 people here. Hit the like button if you haven't already. I don't know how many likes we're on, but make sure you hit that like button. And I'll make sure I'll continue taking an hour or so of Mo's time every couple of weeks to discuss Arsenal. But I want to move on to something a bit more, not emotional for me, but a bit more emotion-provoking, let's say. And that's Granit Xhaka's comments after the Chelsea game.
Are you going to cry?
No, it's not those emotions, that's for sure.
I'm kidding.
It's the other emotions, and I'm sure you saw that side of me a lot after games.
Yeah,
but, a couple of quotes I just want to read out. One from Instagram: "Actions speak louder than words," and one an interview straight after the game. He said, "A lot of people speaking after the red card. A lot of people start to speak again and again and again. but I think I will always show my character. This is a big problem for me, Mo. Big problem. Am I wrong? Is it an agenda? Like, have I got? Is like, do you think it's a personal thing? I'm not sure, but it actually sickens me, Mo, that he feels like he can come out and firstly question why fans are speaking, and then saying again, which is a whole nother debate in itself, because the again comes down to us acting like he improved in between that time. He thinks that he improved enough that we stopped speaking. He got away with the captaincy thing, and now we're speaking again because of the red card. It's a bit of arrogance, smugness. And after 90 minutes, do you think it was, warranted? And I can see you're smiling, Mo. Let me know your thoughts before I continue.
I just find it funny. It's like, you are not in the minority, Turkish, where, clearly he's been very choppy at Arsenal in many ways, and that's being polite, I'd say. Of course, he's had a few good games, but let's face it. Look, is there everyone in the chat answer this question for me? If any footballer moves to a new club, or if you were a footballer and you moved to a new club, would you be happy to accept the same career that Granit Xhaka has had at Arsenal? Would you be happy to accept that? If Thomas Partey, would you wish that on Thomas Partey at Arsenal? Would you wish that for yourself, for any other transfer? Do you think they would want that for themselves? And I think to myself, like, we all know the answer to that. We all know the answer, that clearly it hasn't been plain sailing. It hasn't been easy. He hasn't been like widely, appreciated. Like, what you would want is N'Golo Kante. Someone like him. He's joined Chelsea from day one. Consistency and wide acclaim. I can see the comments like, no. I mean, so that's not a controversial opinion, right? It has not been good enough. So I don't feel like Granit Xhaka, in the flashes of brilliance, and brilliance again is perhaps an exaggeration, the flashes of good performances, I don't think he should then be coming out and saying these things. I think there should be more humility in what he says, and a bit more appreciation of the fact that it hasn't been perfect. It's been far from perfect. And it, I don't know whether to say annoys me or whether it's kind of a case of like just actually baffles me, because how does he not have that appreciation of his time at Arsenal and the fact that this type of performance is an anomaly? I saw you arguing with, well, not actually arguing. I won't say that about you. I saw you talking to someone on Twitter, and this person on Twitter said this was just a typical Granit Xhaka performance, and and I thought to myself, hold on a second, a typical Granit Xhaka performance doesn't involve a goal.
Yeah.
For a start, it doesn't involve a goal.
Exactly.
How are you saying it's a typical? And I just thought to myself, like, surely I'm not being harsh on him when I say that it hasn't been plain sailing and it's been a very rocky road and a lot of choppy performances. I think that's a very fair assessment of him. Yeah. So I don't think that he should be coming out and kind of going on the offensive. I think he should keep his head down, or if anything, if he's going to come out and say something, he should be coming out and saying, I need to consolidate this performance with another 10 just like this. Yeah,
exactly. Something like that, I'd understand it a lot more. I'm not one that was seeking an apology from him, because if you seek an apology, you're willing to forgive, and I feel like we've forgiven him an awful lot to get to now and still ask for forgiveness. He essentially got away with telling fans to F off. I know he said the emotion behind it was due to social media abuse, and again, that's a debate in itself. But regardless whether you think he was right or wrong with that, he got away with it.
He never apologized.
Never. He got away with it. Hence why a year later, Mo, you have a smug Xhaka there, smirking after a goal, saying people are speaking again. Actions speak louder than words. But where is the ownership here of the actions in between? Actions speak louder than words when it suits you. But what about the reason we are 15th, 13th? What about the reason we finished 8th? What about the reason we haven't made Champions League since you've been here? Why don't you start, explaining these actions?
But it's funny because, given that he's saying actions speak louder than words, that means fine. Let's look at your actions on the pitch. Let's look at your performances. You're right. They do speak louder than words. It's actually irrelevant what you say because your performances haven't been good enough. I cannot believe that he would think that his performances have been good enough. I really can't believe that, and I don't want him to fail. I'm not one of those people that gets to a point where I have a personal vendetta against managers or players. I always want whoever's wearing the shirt, whoever's at the touchline, I always want them to succeed, whether it's Wenger, Emery, Ljungberg, Arteta, I don't care who it is, whichever player it is, because it's always in the interest of the club if the people there and then are the ones performing. So I want Xhaka to do brilliantly, yeah? But he hasn't. He simply hasn't. So on what basis is he saying things like actions speak louder than words? And this is the thing that sort of worries me. For him to say that must mean that he thinks he has been good enough.
Yep, that's the problem. That's the problem, Mo. That's why I say it highlights a bigger problem. Because I feel like as much as it's just Xhaka that we've highlighted here, surely for him to feel that way and for him to have the chest to say it live after a match and also have the chest not to come out after a red card or not to come out after telling fans to F off and apologizing, surely that must mean it's being condoned by colleagues. Surely that must mean there's other players that are there saying, you know what, fuck the fans. You know what, it doesn't matter what they think. Forget them. You don't have to explain yourself to them. Just do you. That's what it stinks of. It sounds like that's the advice he's getting. Like, don't worry about them, we're here for you. And it's, the names, I could mention the names, I think they are, but it's a lot deeper rooted, Mo, because it's not just Xhaka.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think it's really, really disappointing that when he gets a red card, he doesn't come out and say anything. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't say anything about letting the team down. Pepe did. Gabriel did, even though I didn't think Gabriel needed to, because his 2 yellows were both him trying to do the right things. Pepe and Xhaka, when they did their things, they were intentionally doing the wrong things. They reacted incorrectly. But at least Pepe came out and apologized. So I think that it's really inconsistent and poor form for Xhaka to not come out and say anything when he does something wrong, but then to come out and say something when he does something right. And I think that's something we've seen too much of this season with the first team, that the people that are facing up after bad results, after things don't go well, they are nowhere to be seen almost, but they're out there when things do go well. Aubameyang did that after he scored. Lacazette, he came and did the interview after he scored. And I get that the television companies are going to want those players to come out, but they should also be volunteering, especially Oba as club captain, to come out when times are hard. But some of the people that we've sent out, this season after defeats, I just think that, come on, guys, let's stand up really properly here and consistently, and don't just speak when it's easy.
So if you had the choice to sell or keep Xhaka, what would you do?
Oh, absolutely sell.
You meet like January if the possibility was there.
Yeah, as and when it arises. Again, I don't have a vendetta against him. If someone offered me £10 million for him, I say no, I'd rather keep him. It's not like that I hate the guy and I just, people say, I'd drive him to the airport myself. No, I'm not like that. Yeah. But, you get fair money for him, I would sell, because, I do think that money can be spent better elsewhere.
Definitely. There was another name that was mentioned in here, Lacazette, and his contract situation. How do you look at that now, Mo? Moving into January transfer window, he's got 18 months left.
18,
what would you do? Obviously, it doesn't look like we're going to have to make that decision in January, but in the summer, he'll be 29 years of age? Like, correct me if I'm wrong, people, but he's kicking the late 20s now. So 29 years of age, a year left. What do you do, Mo?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I didn't realize that he had 18 months left, actually. So that's news to me. And then I think to myself, would I rather have, let's say you can only keep one, Lacazette or Balogun. Would I rather have Balogun and his, top unlimited potential that we, have to kind of weigh up at this stage, or Lacazette knowing what he is? And, again, I don't think anyone's been fully convinced by Lacazette. He's on a really good run at the moment, obviously. But yeah, that's a really difficult one, to be honest with you. I think I would consider an offer for Lacazette. And this is me saying it. And I was one of the people a year or two before he signed I was on Arsenal Fan TV begging the club to sign Lacazette. I thought that he would do really well for us. And unfortunately, he hasn't been as good as I hoped.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I was one of them too. I think we should have got him a year or two before we actually signed him. We didn't. We signed him. In the first few years, I supported him fully. You know, there was obstacles put in front of him, like the Oba signing, like France not calling him up, like starting the season as backup. But he managed to, he managed to kick on. But when you get into the third and fourth year at your time at a club and you haven't really kicked on to find your feet yet and you're still being rotated in and out the side, then it becomes a problem. And I'm definitely open to, seeing the back of him this summer. Obviously, there's better ways to put it. But the signature says there is a reason Xhaka and Cole stay within the teams. They talk a good game to managers and convince them. Hence why they pick them. Big fan of Mo, says the signature.
I looked into Lacazette's stats at Arsenal, and the worrying thing is that if I'm not mistaken, from what I remember, I looked at this a few months back, he's got worse every year, and hopefully this year he'll buck that trend. But you expect it to be the opposite. You kind of forgive a slow start. But if you remember Lacazette's debut, I think it was against Everton, he scored after 50 odd seconds or something.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. So in a way, he's kind of got worse and worse in a way. He needs to buck that trend, especially with this new contract coming up. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but I would accept offers for him,
Yeah, same. And just overall in the January window, what's the bare minimum for you? Is there a bare minimum, or are you just waiting to see what happens?
I still think we should be incorporating Mesut Ozil into the squad, but that situation needs to be resolved. If we can find a resolution, that's great. I think we need another Cam, as I said, and another backup keeper, So if we get the bare minimum for me is a attacking midfielder and the backup keeper, but then it's hard to justify bringing an attacking midfielder when we've got such a big squad already, and also Ozil as an attacking midfielder on 350 grand a week. It's quite difficult to do that. But we need to trim the squad down as well. So for me, I still think we need the Cam, the backup keeper, and trim that squad down.
So you're saying 2 in, 2 out is maybe bare minimum for you?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's a fair way of saying it.
I think that's the same for me. I want Basuma and Buendia. That might be a dream world to some. I think it's realistic. If they mean business, I think it's realistic. But very, they don't mean business very often. So I won't hold my hopes on that one. We've got a super chat here. It's quite a wild one, to be honest, Mo. So I'll let you give your thoughts on it. I'm watching the Liverpool game, says Drogbinho. And to be honest, their team is not that much better than Arsenal's, but the coach is getting the maximum out of their players. Like I said, Mo, over to you on this one. Do you think that the teams are not that far apart?
If he had said the individuals within the team, I might have entertained it.
Yeah.
But the team as a collective sum of their parts, Liverpool are miles ahead of Arsenal. I can't believe, maybe that's what he means. Maybe the actual players on paper, because look at their track record. Probably. They're unbelievably consistent. They are a great team. So, yeah, I disagree with that. But that is down to the manager. And what I would accept, Mikel Arteta's not getting anywhere near enough out of the players that we've got. So the gap right now isn't a true reflection of the gap, but they're still light years ahead of us, even if Arsenal, if Arteta did start getting enough out of the players.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that, because as much as, like you said, individually or a team, it's very different outlook. I also believe that mentality and character goes a long way. So as much as quality is more often looked at over other things, the mentality and character of a lot of those Liverpool players that you wouldn't think that would get into your squad, would make a big difference. And I'm talking about the Hendersons and the James Milners of the world too.
Yeah. Henderson's a great example. Compare Henderson to Granit Xhaka. Henderson took so much stick. His ability was called into question again and again and again at the start of his Liverpool career. Yeah. And now that's a distant memory. And he did that without talking much. He never did anything or said anything controversial. He just knuckled down. And actually, I think that's a really good lesson for a lot of footballers to look at and say, well, do you know what? Henderson was actually like a bit of a laughing stock. And through a Premier League title, through a Champions League title, and really consistent performances, the respect that he clearly has from his teammates, he's proved everyone wrong. And, a lot of people feel silly that, cussing him, and look what he's gone on to achieve.
Yeah. captain as well, doing it all. Literally done it all as captain for Liverpool. It's mad. Rashid says one swallow doesn't make a summer. We need to keep our eye on the ball with the deep lying problems in this club. Lots to fix from top to bottom, and that's something. Rashid, appreciate the support, mate, and your thoughts. Like every single one of you here, there's 1,400 people, but that's exactly what I'm saying. You know, it's as much as there is rays of light with the youngsters. I think the best platform we can give the youngsters is to apply the right pressure to the right places to make sure they, you know, do the right things. That's what we wanted for Wenger. That's what we wanted for the move into the Emirates. It didn't happen, but I believe we're finally at a place now where it seems like enough is enough for a lot more fans than usual, Mo. And there's a lot more heads screwed on than I've seen in seasons gone by. But a couple more wins and it can all change again, Mo. You know how 100%. It is.
Yeah,
how exactly. It is. Amir Zaran says, big example is Oxlade-Chamberlain. When he went to Liverpool, he started shining. Klopp got the best out of him. Yes and no. I think Oxlade didn't do much better at Liverpool than he did at Arsenal, but he had better people around him, a better structure around him, more ambition around him, a club going in the right direction, and it made him look better. When you look at it on paper and you look at performances, I don't know, Mo, do you agree? Do you think there's much difference between Arsenal Ox and Liverpool Ox? Apart from
I don't actually. I agree with you, Turkish, because I kind of feel like he hasn't gone there and really like made himself a starter or anything like that. So I feel as though that's probably more of a reflection on him. I felt like he had all the tools there, like you're saying, better people around him, a better manager, that sort of thing. But yeah, he hasn't pushed on like I thought he would.
Yeah, Jonathan's asking, would you consider selling Pepe in the summer to replace him with someone like Neto from Wolves? And how much do you think we could get for Pepe? Firstly, Pepe out, Neto in. Is that something that interests you?
Look, Pepe has got a lot of talent. We've seen it. We just need to harness that talent. As I was saying, even Aubameyang, no one will question. He's world class. He's looked awful this season. So, of course, other players, Nketiah, Pepe, who are getting a lot of stick, would look awful as well. And, you know, even with that, Pepe hasn't looked good, but he hasn't looked as bad as someone like Willian, for example. You know, I still have hope for Pepe. But look, ultimately, there is a price. I would accept an offer on him, and that doesn't need to even recoup what we paid for him fully, you know. So, you know, even though he's been all right, I have said in the past, he's outperformed statistically Perez and Ljungberg in terms of goals and assists in his first season. Yeah. So I'm not for a second saying that he's a better player than them or even has had a better first season than them. And I'm only talking about the first season. But his return has been okay. It's been acceptable. He just needs to obviously push on. So I won't get rid of him in January, at least till summer. I'd hope that he has a really good second half to his season. But yeah, I understand that the jury's definitely still out on him.
100%, and I'm similar with you. I think that even though he doesn't seem like he's worth 70, it doesn't seem like he'll ever be worth 70. He might be useful for us. He doesn't necessarily have to be worth 70 to become useful. We've got players at this club that we know are no use to us. We've got enough of those players that we need to get rid of. Let's not start adding players to that list that we haven't made full use of yet to know whether they're not going to be useful at all. And Neto is someone I'd love at the club. And for me, we should be putting Neto on top of Nicolas Pepe, on top of Saka, Martinelli, Emil Smith-Rowe. You know, it aids development, it motivates, it pushes each other to go on. Neto's a guy I'd love to bring in to Arsenal, but not directly for somebody else necessarily. You know, we need to build and build and build. Jogbinho again. Let's see with his 4-3-3. Leno, Maitland-Niles. Wait. Are you justifying? This is the same guy, Mo, that said the Liverpool team and the Arsenal team.
Okay.
So we've got a 4-3-3 here. Leno in goal. Maitland-Niles right back. Tierney. Listen, if we... Mo, I don't know what to say to you, mate. Alisson over Leno. Trent over Maitland-Niles. Tierney, Robertson. Obviously, it's going to be Robertson over Tierney. Then you have Van Dijk and Gabriel, let's say. So we've only got one player in there. So already, and that's without mentioning the Thiagos, the Fabinhos, the Salahs, the Manes, the Jotas. I know what you're trying here, mate. You know, and I love the hope and the optimism, and I don't know what else to call it, but yeah, I don't think.
But look, he makes a point to an extent that, let's say, for example, they had Arteta, we had Klopp. You know, because what he's ended it with there is with a better manager. So those players with a better manager, the gap would be a lot closer. And he said in this chat, he said the team can compete with a better manager. If Arteta improves and becomes a better manager, or if we had someone like Jurgen Klopp, you know, truly world-class manager, yeah, I do think this team could compete.
I get that. It's just a stretch right now.
Yeah.
My head's so far away from competing with Liverpool or what Liverpool are competing on. I can't even think about it. We're nearly an hour in, people. There's 1,500 people here. Not long to go, so make sure you hit the like button. And to wrap it up, Mo, before we take any final questions, I just want to ask you about the usual, the next 3 fixtures. We'll leave at the FA Cup for now. Obviously, a home tie against Newcastle. We'll talk about the next 3 league fixtures, and those are West Brom away, Crystal Palace at home, and then Newcastle at home. Expected, and what you think?
Yeah, well, you know, talking about Newcastle, I'm watching the game as we're speaking. If you see me turning away, because I've got it up on the screen, and Newcastle are giving Liverpool a game. You know, they're actually doing all right. Liverpool have had some chances; they should have scored, but they're playing like a decent team. So the FA Cup game against them, is definitely not going to be an easy one. But
twice, league, FA Cup, and then league.
Yeah. So now looking at the fixtures, all right, let's look. West Brom away. Look, we have to win that game. There's just, you know, there's no questions asked. I don't care whether we scrape it or put in a good performance, whether it's a Chelsea performance where we can kind of say that was good, or the Brighton performance where we just kind of scrape it. I don't really care. We're in that stage right now where we just need to drag ourselves into form. So, you know, we're a long way away from criticizing how we win. You know, do you know what I mean? That's like something I look forward to. Right now, it's just a case of winning. But I think we will. You know, I hope we will. I didn't think we'd beat Brighton, but I think the team showed enough character for me to say that, yeah, hopefully they will go and do that. And we know West Brom aren't going to show much ambition. I'd like to see that reflected in Arteta's lineup. I want Arteta to take the game to him. To Sam Allardyce, you know, rather than playing 2 defensive midfielders. And then...
so how would you line up then? Like, I just want to ask you about that, because look, Martinelli's come back, played 3 straight games, taken a couple knocks. Saka came off the other day. What would your midfield 3 and front 3 be? Well, look, if Martinelli and or Saka aren't fit to play, or not fit enough to play, I would do Aubameyang and Lacazette up top together. Yeah. And I'd have Emile Smith-Rowe still in the team behind them as well. So I would like to see us go attacking. What I don't want to see is, you know, Xhaka El-Neni. You know, I don't think that's quite positive enough against a team that, you know, you're going to have all of the ball. I don't think you need 2 people holding. Yeah. So we haven't got much choice. When is Partey even scheduled to be back? Have you heard anything about it? Well, I don't know. You know, often you can kind of tell with players, you know, when they put on their social media stories, like, you know, the kind of like their little video preview to a game, you think to yourself, hold on, are you in the squad? And Partey did that. So I wasn't really sure. But I don't know. I'll need to check. From what I remember, the last injury update, there was a few players that the manager said would be back in the new year. So that includes Willian, for example. So I don't know if that means as early as this Saturday, which is only the 2nd day of the new year. And I don't know if Partey was included in that. But in any case, I'll be playing either El-Neni or Xhaka, and I'll be playing Ceballos, for example, you know, in a midfield trio with Emile Smith-Rowe or something like that, because we have to go and take the game to them. We're going to have all of the ball. I don't want us to just resort to crosses that they'll deal with very, very nicely. So we need to have something to have some sort of intricate play in the middle against West Brom. And then Palace at home, and then Newcastle away. Look, both of those are winnable games. All at home. Not all. Sorry, Palace and Newcastle, both at home. Sorry, yeah, I said Newcastle away. Yeah, you're right. It's at home. All winnable games. But, you know, I look at that and I'm saying we'll beat West Brom. We should beat Palace, should beat Newcastle. But I don't think we'll get 9 out of 9. I know. It sounds too good to be true. Yeah, exactly. Sounds too good to be true. I want to add in a draw in there and say 7. But even that, to me, is being optimistic. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know. Say, what do you think? 7 sound about right, Mo? Or do you think that's a bit too? I don't know. With this Arsenal side, you know, if we take it on balance, if in the next 3 games we get 7 points, then we can look at it and say we got 12 out of 15. Yeah, and that's acceptable. You know,
to get on a 5-game run, and that's acceptable, especially coming off the back of 7 losses. I would accept 7 out of 9. But I really think that if we really do that, if we go and put 5 wins on the bounce, then we can properly say, yes, it looks like we've turned a corner. 2 wins on the bounce is not turning a corner.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I expect 7, but I wouldn't be surprised by 4. Let me just throw that in there, Mo. I wouldn't be surprised by 4. Kyle sends a super chat in saying the Pepe one is tricky. Would he be better if he played under another manager like Klopp or Pep? Potentially, yeah. Obviously, the better managers and better squads too. So it part of it comes down to the manager, part of it comes down to the squad you have around you and the squad built around you. So I believe both have been a hindrance to Pepe because of no consistency. He also says, Turkish, tell Don Robbie to shout out your channel. It is what it is. You tell him, you lot tell him to shout out the channel. It's not up to me to tell him. You lot go in the comments there, put the Turkish flag in there, let him know, man. You need the channel shouted at. But yeah, Mo, so you're saying 7 out of 9. Is that your prediction to wrap it up?
I don't know about prediction. I'd say 5. I think a win and 2 draws. Maybe 5 or 7, something like that. So you're 5-2-7. I'm going to do that.
Beaten.
5, 6 or 7 points. Yeah, I just I can't see us winning 5 on the bounce. It's just purely because I'm not used to it. That muscle memory isn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But tell me this, Turkish. I've got an interesting one for you. But just with Newcastle, Liverpool on, right? I'm really conflicted. When I see Liverpool, they're dominating and stuff, and when I see them going forward, I find myself thinking, no, I don't want you to score. But then on the other hand, I think to myself, hold on a second, no, I'd rather you just wrapped up the league because I don't want the risk of any other team. I don't dislike Liverpool as much as I dislike some other teams. So what are you thinking these days? Do you want Liverpool to just win every single game and just wrap up the league because City are doing nothing?
Yeah. Listen, if I could shake your hand through the screen, I would have shook your hand as you explained, because that's exactly how I see it. Liverpool need to wrap this league up, so I don't hear nothing from no Tottenham fans, Chelsea fans, United fans. Yeah, I don't want to hear it. I'm focused on my club, but the noise can be jarring sometimes, and any little glimmer of hope for some of them teams and their fans run wild, Mo. So I'm looking at Liverpool and hoping they wrap it up, and if not them, City are not too far behind, couple games in hand. People are forgetting about them, but hopefully one of them, hopefully, if it's not us, let me say, if it's not us as an Arsenal fan, one of them wrap it up, because it would make me sick if any other club done it this season.
Even Leicester, they're still in with a shout. Obviously, as you say, United, even Everton potentially. For me, look, Liverpool, Leicester, Everton, City, Villa. If one of those guys there, fine, but not.
Everton would be an interesting one, because imagine what happens over there if Everton win a league title for the first time in however long, and they've got history behind them. Ancelotti now, some money, Liverpool, Everton, that might be a thing coming up soon. Well, let's hope Arsenal come back up one day and we can start thinking about the rest. Tom says he got one in before the buzzer. Appreciate it, Tom. He said, bro, I'm tired of Xhaka. What now? Have we forgiven and forgotten what he's done again? Red card, no apology, and a post-match interview after Chelsea. I'm done. His performance yesterday was bang average. Get out, Arsenal Football Club, says Tom. Obviously he sounds more like me, Mo, where it's just enough is enough. This is the emotion I'm talking about. It was never tears or anything. It was anger and frustration. But Mo, anything you want to wrap up with before we call it a night?
No, just looking at the table, and as you pointed out, City, if they win 2 games in hand, if this finishes a draw, this Liverpool-Newcastle game, then they're 1 point behind Liverpool if City win their 2 games in hand. The mad thing is, if this ends a draw and United win their game in hand, they're level on points at the top of the table. So it's crazy, actually. Everton would be 1 point behind if they win their game in hand. But, just crazy. But I think, weren't Man City playing Everton this game week? So obviously they can't both do that. But yeah, very, very tight at the top. And I'm just looking at Arsenal. We are actually only 6 points away from Chelsea, Tottenham.
Don't start, Mo.
Yeah, I need to stop.
I can see you stroking the beard thinking, we're only 6 points.
Yeah, you're right. It's because I haven't looked at that section of the table in so long, honestly. Yeah. Because it's just depressing. I've actually been looking at the relegation zone. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So just looking at that, I'm thinking, it's actually quite tight at the top. It's actually a very interesting table so far this season. We'll see what happens.
It is, but I just want to say thanks, Mo, for coming on again. Obviously, you've added a massive perspective to the channel, a massive input to the channel. It's grown so much in the last 28 days, and you've been a part of that. So I just want to say thank you for that. And hopefully we can bring this more consistently. I did promise you guys that it'll be on Spotify and Apple and all that because you wanted it. And in the new year, it will be. I'm just making sure I finalize it and get it done and the quality is all right. And it will be out on Spotify for you lot in audio format if you missed the video or you don't have YouTube Premium or whatever that's called. But Mo, like I said, thank you for coming on. This is the last one of the new year. So hopefully you have a good, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Enjoy the rest of the bank holiday and days off that remain for the year. And yeah, people, take care. Love for all your support too. Appreciate all of the support from you guys. Continue getting the likes up. Continue subscribing, people. I've just hit 36K. And that's because of you guys. So until the next time, I'll be back tomorrow for a keep or sell video before the January transfer window hits. And it should be a long one because I'd only keep 7-8 of these players, but we'll get into that tomorrow. Mo, take care.
Take care, man. Thanks everyone for watching. All those responses and stuff make a big difference to even the chat that Turkish and I are having. So we appreciate that.
Definitely add something too, and it's kind of giving back. At the end of the day, it's good to engage with the subscribers and the fans a bit as well. So people, keep it up. Mo, take care. We'll be back in a couple.